the ACLU deemed straight a concentration camp for throwaway teens.
This is like some kind of twisted novel that you think this cannot have been real.
My mother had me arrested, and the rolling my fingers in the ink at the police station at age 13, my cop said, "You have a choice. You can go home with your mother, or you can go into foster care." And I was like, foster care? She liked my writing, and she would say to the class, "Listen to this writing." And she would read it, and the kids would be like, "Who wrote that?" And she would say, "Cyndy wrote it." And it was like, I was okay at something. This adult who had a very, very rare kindness and respect for a kid saved her life, you know?
You're listening to Fine is a Four-Letter Word. I'm your host, Lori Seitz. This show exists because fine is a lie leaders tell themselves. And it costs them their people, their culture, and their impact. Every episode, a leader gets honest about what it really takes to lead with empathy, vulnerability, gratitude, and courage. I trust something in this conversation will stay with you. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Fine is a Four-Letter Word. My guest today is Cyndy Etler. Welcome to the show, Cyndy.
Hi, Lori. Happy to be here.
It's so crazy, like how people meet, like how I find guests and stuff. And you and I were at a networking function like last week even. It wasn't even that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you made a comment in introductions and I was like, oh, I need to talk to you. And here we are.
Here we are.
Recording a show just a few days later. And so I'm really eager to get into your story and the lessons and everything that has come out of it. Because, you know, everybody has a story, but we are not necessarily defined by that story. And I think a lot of times people think, well, this is my story, so this is who I am.
Very optional, I think. Very optional. You can create, to some extent, what you do with the raw materials that you're given. So I think, yeah.
One of the questions I like to start out with is, what were the values and beliefs that you were raised with?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I mean, there's sort of a big dividing line in my life. My father was a sort of a famous musician and professor, and my mother was like 30 years younger than him. She was a musician as well. So at conception, it was music and I don't know. I wasn't, it was conception. I don't know exactly what, but I do know that the
creativity,
and the intention was, my father was going on sabbatical. The Vietnam War was going on. They protested. The plan was for them to move to Costa Rica and live there, playing music in an orchestra that made its money by growing like rubber trees and selling the profits. So it was supposed to be this like barefoot life of music and free will. And then my father died when I was a year old. So so my young mother was like, I did not know what to do, right? So I think that, getting back to your question, what were the values that I was kind of raised with? Unfortunately, this isn't fun, but I think they were basically to look a certain way to attract male attention, to get your needs met, and do anything to achieve that. So sadly, that's kind of the environment that I was raised in, and also kind of shut up and take it.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate to be so grim, but really that's kind of what it was. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's not a judgment. It's just that this is what it was.
Yep. At the same time, I will say, I was a free lunch kid. There was no money in the house. But where I grew up, which was Stamford, Connecticut, which is one of the first suburbs outside of New York, so it's pretty urban. I went to a school that I wasn't in the minority as a white kid, but, close enough. And I never learned anything other than that, right? I never learned any values that said, you're better than anybody else. You know what I mean? The only one, if anything, was an idea of be pretty, be pretty. That's the most important thing. But other than that, um, there wasn't any lessons around you're better than anybody or that kind of thing.
Okay. And so how did that carry through? Like, is that still a value you have, or did you find new values that
Yeah.
fit you better?
The second part really stayed with me. I mean, where I chose to spend time as a kid and where I felt most comfortable was not in community with people like my mother, we'll just say, right? Um, so kind of my sociocultural values stayed there, right? But I think I consciously decided at age 9 to be as much as possible the opposite of my mother.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't go in for a lot of, I really don't spend time or money on appearance. I really just, honestly, I probably look down on that as a value that some people have, right? If I'm being really honest, and I mean, shame on me, I guess, but that's how I came through all that.
All right. And then, so what at 9, like, that's where you got to the point where you're like, this doesn't really fit me.
Yeah, yeah.
And is that when you started really thinking about everything else that was going on
Oh my gosh.
around you, that you were like, I don't accept this?
I think I was kind of born a fighter. I mean, now I'm literally a trained boxer, and I think that I got that training.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I got that training starting at maybe age 20, but I was, at birth, that's what I was, right? So I was always fighting. My mother remarried a guy to have a roof over her head. He was abusive, and I think I got targeted for a lot of that because I'm a fighter and because I was like, no, right?
Yeah, you weren't just going to take it like she had taught you. Yeah. How old were you when she remarried?
I was in kindergarten.
So you lived with him for a while before you decided
that I was out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, there was abuse going on in the house, and it was when they moved us from Stamford, the city of Stamford, out to a little town, Monroe, which was like the sticks. It was like 2-mile walk to anything. Literally, there was no public transportation, so I was stuck out there in the woods, trapped as a 12-year-old. With new kids, country kids, not great. And then in September of my freshman year of high school, I met this girl who had just moved to Monroe from Bridgeport. Bridgeport is a smaller city than Stamford, but it's very urban. At the time, it was murder capital of the U.S. And I went for a weekend in Bridgeport with her, and I was like, I'm home in this, urban environment. So I started trying to spend as much time as I could there, and I had found an island. I had found an island that fit who I was and where I felt comfortable. So there was this weekend when I was 13, just before my 14th birthday. And I was like, I'm going to Bridgeport. I'm going to get a ride. I'm going to go. And somehow my mother's husband kind of picked a fight with me, and I fought back. And he cornered me in a bathroom, and he kind of beat me again. And my mother just stood there in the door and watched. And she didn't do anything. And I was like, all right, out and Z, that's it. Right. So I was 13 when I took off. My mother had me arrested. And, the rolling my fingers in the ink at the police station at age 13, I thought I was bad. And the cops gave me a choice. My mother went to the police station. The cops said, you have a choice. You can go home with your mother, or you can go into foster care. And I was like, foster care. That was the choice I made, right? So yeah, that was age 13.
Did you know what you were getting into by saying foster care, or you just knew what you didn't want to go back to?
I just knew what I didn't want. At that age, the future is right here. That's as much as you can imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted Bridgeport. I wanted to be around these people that were free and didn't have, didn't seem to have, if there was abuse at home, they had an exit strategy. They could just be out in the street all night, whatever. I wanted that.
Okay. And so then you choose foster care. Did you get placed with a family?
No. As now, it was then. There aren't too many families, looking to take in a teenager with a history with the law, right? So I was sent to Janice House, which was then a youth shelter for kids, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I think that's where kind of the foundation of my life, like the pavement was laid for the rest of my life at Janice House. The the staff there were like, okay, here's the job board. Your job, see that? Okay, your job tonight is washing dishes. You can choose to wash dishes or you can choose not to. And if you do the dishes, you get to hang out in the TV room from 8 to 9. And if you choose not to do the dishes, from 8 to 9, you'll be alone upstairs. And I was like, I'm not doing, all right. It was a neutral. Okay, your choice.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Adults not telling
Right. You're getting choice for the first time.
and respect, right?
Right.
And so I sat, picking threads out of an old blanket upstairs while the other kids watched whatever was on TV. And so the next day I was like, well, I guess I'll do my chore. But I chose it. And then I did that enough and I earned the right. This is amazing to me. I had turned 14 by then. I earned the right to walk to the corner store to buy Marlboro Reds. So I'm 14 years old, this little badass in Bridgeport, murder capital of the U.S., packing my Marlboros on the this part, whatever this part of the hard part of the palm is. And I mean, I hope I'm not self-mythologizing. I don't think I could have made this up out of whole cloth. I feel like at that moment I got hit by lightning of, oh, this is what I am. This is what I need to be. That adult. Not really knowing what that means, but I need to be that adult for kids. So that's that. It was not an easy path. It was not a straight path, but that was like me understanding what my destiny, what my purpose was.
Wow. Yeah. It's interesting because people, not everybody, few people like you it's almost like, yeah, like you said, struck by lightning, like, okay, I get it. But you're so young. Like, what does that even look like?
Yeah.
Like to accept that, let's call it an assignment. What do you do with it?
At that age, you just keep doing the thing. You just keep getting bussed back to your school in Monroe, trying to be a badass, trying to be bad. But it was,
can't actually do anything with it other than acknowledge.
Yeah, it was like a seed somewhere, somewhere planted. Yeah.
And so how long did you stay at Janice House and what happened after that?
1 month, because they only had beds for a month and there was no place for me to go. I don't understand the legality of a 13-year-old deciding her own fate, but that's what it was. I don't know. Actually, when I was writing my first book, my agent told me, you need to prove this. No one's going to believe this. So I called the Monroe Police Department and said, can I have these records? They were like, because you were a minor, they got shredded or tossed, when you turned 18.
Oh, wow.
So I have no access to what was going on, legally at that time. But I guess because I chose foster care, that was enough for me not to have to go back to my mother's.
Right.
Whatever the deal was, that I don't have.
And she must have had to agree to it.
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
I do know that my mother's point of view was that, she was at the mercy of everything, so I was the bad guy, that kind of thing.
I get it.
So, but she had heard about this place called Straight Incorporated that was getting a lot of media coverage. And Straight was purporting itself to be a drug rehab. And it was a place where parents could take their kid and sign their own name and leave the kid in this warehouse. And the kid would stay in the warehouse until they admitted they were a drug addict, apologized to their parents. So it was, I mean, that's a whole thing we could do a very, very deep dive on. But I mean, the summer.
And you host a podcast about this experience already.
Yeah, it's Robert Downey Jr.'s podcast, The Sunshine Place. Season 2 of The Sunshine Place is the history of Straight Incorporated, and I'm the narrator. So people who are interested can get the whole deep dive. But the summary is that the ACLU, when there were lawsuits started coming up and there were investigations, the ACLU deemed Straight a concentration camp for throwaway teens. So it was just abuse, all kinds of abuse until kids were broken and brainwashed and reciting the party line.
Were you allowed to be in contact with your parents, with your mother?
No, no. Mm-mm.
And you weren't even on drugs.
I had smoked pot then maybe 3 times, and drank beer like once.
In my head, that doesn't even count.
I know. It was not about drug addiction. It was about
But they weren't. Yeah,
getting parents to give money. A very famous lawsuit was a girl was signed into Straight and held in there. I think it was actually kids, a descendant of Straight. Like they just would change that when they were sued and shut down. They changed their name, right? So one of those, a girl was sent in at the age of 13 for wearing a leather skirt. And she was held for 13 years.
13 years.
13 years. Another girl was put in for sniffing a magic marker. So they said that means she's a drug addict because she sniffed a magic marker. That means she was trying to get high. So it was a scam to get money out of desperate parents during the Just Say No movement, where a kid in a denim jacket was the devil.
Okay. How long were you there?
16 months.
And what happened? Like, you got to the point where you made all those admissions so you could get out? Like, why wouldn't a kid make that admission like a month after they've been there and been like, okay, I'm out. I admit to everything I didn't do, but whatever. I just want to get out.
It's really, really hard to explain the way like a coercive cult works, but here's a way that I've thought about it. In the Straight I started out, it was in Virginia. There were probably 250 kids in the group, in the warehouse, right? And the warehouse, I was in that warehouse for the first 10 months, from 9 in the morning until 9 at night, midnight, 1 a.m. So you're in there 12 to 15 hours a day, surrounded by all these kids. Every one of these kids is out to get you, literally. Because the way that they gain favor with staff, the way that they try to move up and prove to staff, I'm a real straightling, I'm a real believer, is by attacking other kids.
Wow. It's like that book. What was that book?
Yeah, The Lord of the Flies. Or the Hunger Games.
I was thinking Lord of the Flies. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was all these complicated, coded ways of when you first realized, oh, okay, I better admit that I smoked pot, then you got attacked because you're lying. You don't really, you're faking it. You don't really believe it. And you're like, what? I just did it. So you just continue to get attacked until you observe other kids who are better at showing it, right? And then they start to believe you a little, but then there's a sneak attack. It's so, you kind of have to read the book to experience it, to understand it, but you couldn't just fake it. And kids who ran away were brought back. Like other kids would narc them out. So many, it's so complicated. That's why Robert Downey Jr. did a whole podcast.
Nobody had any contact with their parents to be able to tell them what was going on?
You earned it eventually. You earned contact. So it took me 5 months to earn a talk with my mother, which was, I sat down with her for 5 minutes with another kid there observing, and there was a script that I had to adhere to, and that was telling her I did this druggy thing to reinforce to her, keep making these monthly payments. You were right. Straight wasn't lying. I'm an addict. I'm proving it. So the parent would keep spending money.
This is like some kind of twisted novel that you think this cannot have been real. And so, okay, skip ahead to the 16 months. You can finally come home.
So then I'm going back to my mother's house where, there's her husband. I'm back in Monroe, Connecticut. And I'm this brainwashed, like weirdo, because after 16 months in the building, in the cult, you're you're a cult member, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was hours and hours away from the closest straight, and I was like, I thought a kid in my high school in a Budweiser shirt was terrifying, and I had learned the script to say that. I would say that to kids if they tried to talk to me. You're back. Talking to you is not in my best interest. You are a druggy friend. So that really makes you popular,
Wait, yeah, wow.
right? So real talk, I was suicidal. I was just ready to go. I was like, I cannot do this. What?
Of course. Yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
Um, but you made it through high school.
I made it through high school.
Then what happened?
Well,
Like, were you still living with your mom and stepfather that whole time in high school?
I was living with my mother, but she realized because of straight that she had another alcoholic in her life, and that was her husband. So she had been victimized by him as well as me by these horrible drug addicts and alcoholics. So she was in the process of divorcing him, but he still had custody of the kid they had together, so I still had to see him. I mean, it was hard times.
Okay.
I had this one teacher who, in Hansel and Gretel, didn't they first put down breadcrumbs and then they got smart and put down like glistening stones to find the path back? Wasn't that it? Or maybe I'm just making good imagination.
I just remember the breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Okay. So that teacher to me was another key element in the path, lily pad maybe, to keep me above water and get me to where I had to go. Right. So I like ate lunch in the bathroom stalls and hid in the bathroom stalls to not see kids in the hallway. And I would come into, it was English class. I would come in late and she would just kind of, oh, hi, Cindy. Like she didn't punish me. She didn't, I don't know how she, I don't know how she knew what she knew. I don't know what she knew, but she knew to go easy on me. Right. And I cannot talk about this teacher without crying. She saw something good in me and she called it out. Like she was, it feels like she was the first person in my life who liked me, you know?
Yeah.
And she liked my writing, and she would say to the class, listen to this writing. And she would read it, and the kids would be like, who wrote that? And she would say, Cindy wrote it. And they would all turn and look, and it was like, like I was okay at something, sitting and crying. But yeah, so once again, this adult who um, had a very, very rare kindness and respect for a kid saved a life, you know?
Yeah. Did you ever get in touch with this teacher after as an adult?
Yeah, I let's see, when was it? It was after my books came out. I went back to speak at that high school, and when I was done speaking, she stands up in the back of the room.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and she was still her. She was this like willowy, she taught us the streetcar named Desire, and she was Blanche Dubois. She just acted that out, and she stood there like this, like leaning with her hip and her shoulder, and her like cashmere sweater, and gave me this look, and it was Blanche Dubois, not literally flirtation, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
It's decades later, and then some kid walked by, like she had retired from teaching, so she was like subbing at the middle school,
Okay.
right? And some jock in football gear came by and said, "Hi," like happy to see her, and she was like, "Hi, Brad," and then she turned to me and rolled her eyes, like she's still this just icon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
Did you had a whole conversation with her, I'm sure, afterwards?
yeah, yeah.
Did she know? I mean, she was there because you were promoting your books or sharing the story from your books. So she had read that, but did she tell you she knew what had happened before?
I don't know if I asked her. I mean, like there was a reporter there, and there were kids around waiting to.
Okay.
And I was just so in shock to see her. I may have, kind of blacked it out. But she's not a needy person. Like I wrote an article, I think, a HuffPost personal piece about her. And there's a line in there that I feel like summarizes it. And I I found this jewelry that's like a message in a bottle, little bottle with a cork and a scroll in it. And I had that line from the piece turned into a necklace, message in a bottle, and sent it to her. And of course, she thanked me. And I was like, well, I'll be in Connecticut next week. And she was like, oh, I won't be there. So it's like there's strong boundaries, which is also a great lesson for me. You can care and absolutely change a kid's life without putting that kid in a papoose around your neck because you can only carry so many kids.
Yeah.
And without the kid, she taught me that for an adult to save a kid's life, the kid doesn't need to be a sucker fish onto the adult. You can get just this one drop of water in a dying plant and the plant survives. And then the adult can move on. So for me, in my work with kids, I'm like yelling at you, but
I love this enthusiasm.
I'm able to work with so many, like thousands of kids, and then I move on and help more kids. And because I know that just that little bit of care can move the Titanic 1 inch, and then the kid from there can take it from there, right?
Right. Because if you're saving somebody who's drowning, but you're holding on to them so tightly, then you're both going down.
Yep. And once they're no longer drowning and they can doggy paddle, they're alive. You can then help the next drowning kid.
Wow. What an amazing lesson.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's amazing. The whole thing is amazing that you made it to be an adult and a well-functioning adult.
Yeah, right. I agree.
And because of this, we could say this one person, I'm sure there were more than one person as you grew through it, but yeah. And the lesson, that's such a good lesson. What other things would you share with leaders about how to lead, whether it's themselves or their teams, or how do you put those lessons that you learned into how you live now?
Yeah, I think, so I am a teen life coach, so I'm working with adolescents. And with adolescents, this is essential to move the needle, but I think with everybody else as well, it's never about me. What supports people is me or you, or that being interested in them. That is the sun that a plant grows toward, is someone being interested in them, seeing them, and like my English teacher, seeing the strengths and calling them out, right? It's really kind of that easy. And there can be a tendency to want to talk about oneself, or I did this. It literally what I'm doing right now. I did this, so this works, so you should try it. What I'm doing right now is not effective, right? What would be more effective?
Well, you're telling your story, which is what we're here for. But yes, I understand.
If you and I were offline right now, right, I would pivot into coaching mode and I would be asking you, okay, tell me about you. Enough about me. Tell me about you. What was your hardest thing? What got you through it? And sort of reiterating when you say, well, this was big, or I was good at this, literally just repeating it back so the person feels heard. And that it's like it blowing, air into a balloon that expands it, and they can lift up on that. I'm being really corny right now.
No, it's great, because what I'm hearing you say is people, it's about listening to people and holding space for them.
That's it. Thank you.
And whether you're in corporate or at a networking event or working with adolescents, whatever, even within a personal relationship, that's really what people want the most is, look at me, I'm human, and see who I am for who I really am.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so the work you're doing with adolescents is so important, because I think that's, I don't know, you're the expert, but that's the age where you start really growing into who you are, who you're going to become.
Yeah. And I mean, I could geek out on this for the next 18 days, but teenagers what they really need is autonomy. What they really get is control and direction. So when there's an intervention and someone approaches them from a place of What do you think? What do you want? Right? And coaching is different from therapy because I'm not guided by the DSM-5. So for me, there is no ideal,
Right.
right? I don't have to fill out insurance paperwork or in special ed, I don't have IEP goals that are the child will do this. It's only what do you want to change? And let's explore what it would take to do that. And teenagers are like, oh, finally, thank you.
Just like you were at Janice House.
Yes, yes. It works miracles. It really does.
Are there any other parts that we left out that you feel are important to share?
I mean, there's so many things I could talk about. Just other things that are kind of more peripheral that have been a ladder up and out for me. Education always was where I was safe. I escaped into books. It was always teachers who like kind of parented me and validated me. So my teachers along the way, my college education, I graduated summa cum laude, and that's like, I grew 10 inches from the experience of college. There's just exercise for feeling good, right? Not so much appearance, but like making you feel like you can do anything and making you feel good. Those are, kind of peripheral. Really the spinal, yeah, important.
It's still important because each of those pieces is a building block.
But what I always say to kids is just find the one person who kind of listens to you and seems to like something about you other than like complimenting your appearance. So this goes back to those early values. There's that can be fraught when an adult is really complimenting your appearance. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe that just means that's their value system, but it can mean something else. So I tell kids to keep their eye out for adults who seem to like them and listen to them and are interested in them and want absolutely nothing in return. Those are the ones. Whatever they're saying, listen to it. Whatever vibe they're giving, let it soak in.
What's the name of your book? Because I want to put that in the show notes.
Yeah. The first one is Dead Inside. So that tells the story that I told about Janice House going to straight, and then it's written first person present tense. So you read it, you go through straight, right? So a lot of people who are in straight have told me they had to put it down. One woman sent a picture of she drowned the book in her pool. She had to kill the book, right? So it's intense. It's intense.
I'm actually I'm going to read it. I found it and I am anticipating that I'm gonna have to put it down a few times.
It's a lot, but it's also, people tell me, very, very compelling and funny. So it's kind of dark humor, but
I'm sure.
yeah. And the follow up is We Can't Be Friends, and that's about going back to Connecticut, and that tells that story. Like as a cult survivor, dropped back into this suburban high school and surviving, and it tells the story of that teacher. So
how was it for you to write them?
When Dead Inside was originally self-published, and then I got an agent, and she worked the miracle of getting a publisher to pick it up, and so I rewrote it, reworked it, and it was traditionally published. For that iteration, I had to write an endnote that kind of gave the history of straight, so I had to research straight. My hair started falling out in clumps. I mean, just the bodily response, the stress response in the body was, I'd brush my hair and it'd be like,
wow.
So that was intense. There was a lot of like sobbing and writing. I wrote it all longhand and weirdly reliving stuff, but I feel like the process really purged a lot. I don't suffer from a lot of the kind of psychological and psychosocial ailments that I think a lot of other people who were in there suffer from, because I got it out.
Once those books were published, did you ever hear from anybody who had same experiences?
Yeah, and I do, like, pretty regularly. I'll get emails or comments on social media. There's people who are in straight call it waking up. There's usually the memories kind of stay repressed 15, 20, even 30 years. And now there's movies out and stuff like that people are seeing it, and it's like boing, something, some like dust or concrete shell cracks in their skull, and they're like, wait, what? Wait, I what? And then the memories come back, and it's people are kind of shocked.
The mind is an interesting place in how it represses things to protect us.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Well, let's switch gears because we're about at our 30 minutes. Are you a fan of music?
Yeah.
Did music help you through adolescent
Totally. Yeah, it was an escape hatch and a magic carpet to get out of that stuff. Yeah.
And so, is there a song that you listen to now when you need an extra boost of energy? And what is it?
Yeah, you know what it is? Like New Jack Ling, Bobby Brown, My Prerogative. That is just like uppercut, like try to fuck with me. Try.
Because I have My Prerogative and I know how to box.
You're not gonna, whatever you think you might do, you're not gonna do it. This is up to me. So, and I think I proved it to myself and to anybody else who's watching.
Absolutely. I agree. And lastly, if someone wants to continue this conversation with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah. If parents are looking for support for their kid or for themselves, it's so easy to find me, theteenlifecoach.com. The Teen Life Coach, right? So my email is there. Way to contact me is on there. My author website is cyndyetler.com. That's where you find my books and all that stuff. It's Cyndy with 2 Y's.
I will put links to all of that in the show notes to make it easy for people to find you.
Awesome.
Cyndy, thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a 4-letter word.
Awesome. It was so nice to talk.
Cyndy Etler's is definitely one of the harder stories we've heard on this show. It reminds me a little bit of Judy Henderson's, which was episode 181. I started reading Cyndy's first book, Dead Inside, after this conversation, and it is not an easy read. But it's important to acknowledge and honor her history. Here are a few of the key takeaways from today's episode. First, your story is not your destiny. Cyndy's father died when she was 1. She grew up being taught that a woman's value was in attracting male attention, and she should shut up and take it. Her stepfather was abusive, and at 13, she chose foster care over going home. Today, she's a published author, a teen life coach, and someone who has helped thousands of kids. The raw materials don't determine what you build. Second, one person who sees you can change everything. Cyndy says she literally can't talk about that one teacher without crying. The one who didn't punish her for coming to class late, never explained how she knew what was going on at home, and was, in Cyndy's words, the first person in her life who liked her. You don't have to rescue someone, you just have to see them. Third, you can care deeply without making someone your whole life's weight. Cyndy's teacher showed her that a single drop of water can save a dying plant. And then you move on and help the next one. Just a small bit of care can move the Titanic 1 inch, and then the person can take it over from there. Fourth, the most powerful thing you can do is be genuinely interested in someone. Not telling them what to do, not fixing them, just asking, what do you think? What do you want? And then reflecting back what they said makes them feel heard. People generally don't need control and direction. What they need is autonomy. And finally, getting it out can heal you. Cyndy wrote her story longhand, sobbing, hair falling out in clumps, and came through the other side freer than most survivors of what she went through. She attributes that directly to having gotten the story out of herself. Whatever your hardest thing is, there is something to be said for finding the way to give it a voice. Thank you for listening today. If this episode reached you, share it. If you want to hear more from Cyndy, she narrates The Sunshine Place, which is Robert Downey Jr.'s podcast, whose second season is a deep dive into Straight Incorporated. I'm Lori Seitz, and this is Fine is a 4-letter word. I'll see you next time.